So today I'm retiring, and I'm still going to be around, but not in the capacity I once was.
Along with Tom Heinsohn, and welcome once again to our look ahead at the 1992-1993 Boston Celtics, as we're here at Media Day getting ready for the season. A season obviously that'll have a different look with the absence of Larry Bird, but what about this team, Tom? Are we going to see a different Boston Celtic club this year?
I think they pretty much last season had things in or post-Larry Bird era style. I think they're going to try and up-tempo the game, considerable degree. I think that's why they acquired Xavier McDaniel to help in the rebound department and still have some speed at that spot. So I think they've laid the groundwork for what they're going to do this year, last year. And I think it was pretty effective. The unknown factors on this ball club right now is how long can McHale play and Parrish play and still be effective? Even they don't know. Robert Parrish is going to be 39 years of age, but Chris Ford and the coaching staff have really husbanded his abilities and limited his minutes so that he could be a productive player. McHale has been prone to a foot problem situation. He mentions that he cannot for sure say, I'm going to be 100%. But I would think that this would be just a little ego thing with Kevin McHale to really come forward this season.
We look at the Celtics roster, and you think of the big names that are young, and you see Reggie Lewis, Sherman Douglas, Steve Brown. Does this have to become a more guard-oriented team as we head into the middle of the 90s?
That's what up-tempo basketball is all about. It turns those guys loose. It gets them going in the open court, takes advantage of their speed and their potential athletic ability. And they still have this great low-post player in Kevin McHale to go to should that not work. And that's why McHale is a key player. But the Reggie Lewises should really come forward in this thing. They'll be featuring him more. I mean, he rose to the top of the bottle last year and is really a bona fide all-star player. And emotionally, he's ready to accept the leadership of this thing. He's a true veteran that the Celtics are going to be mighty glad they have. D. Brown, there's a battle going to go on for who's going to run this ball club, and Sherman Douglas or D. Brown. D. Brown has got perhaps more athletic ability than Sherman Douglas, but don't tell Sherman Douglas that, because that's the type of thing that provokes him to play even better. I mean, this kid has been being told since the 5th grade that he can't play basketball, he's too small, and yet he's playing with the Boston Celtics. So he is a personality guy. He's a tough competitor. He's going to make his presence felt, and that type of competition is really good for this ball club. So it's got many good things happening at the start of the season, and looking at it, I'd say that they're going to be very competitive, although the Eastern Conference is going to be a little bit tougher, but they'll be right in the fight.
Okay, the Celtics about to open training camp as we're here on Media Day. 16 players turned out today, and John Barry, John Bagley, still question marks. We'll talk about that a little later, and we'll have a more in-depth look at the Boston Celtics when we return. The start of the 1992-93 season begins the regentrification of the Celtics. The first step towards moving into the future began on August 18th when Larry Bird announced his retirement.
If I was healthy this year and I knew I could help my team, and I don't care if it was just rebounding or just playing defense, I would have played. I love to play basketball. I still love to play basketball, but I'm not going to be able to do it.
The end of the Bird era came as a shock to some, but in reality had to be expected. After missing 37 regular season games and the first 6 playoff games of the 1991-92 season, Larry began to consider retiring.
I told you guys last year if I had the same problems coming back, I wasn't going to play anymore. Whether you believe me or not, that was up to you. But I wasn't going to do the same things over and over and over to my back.
The 1991 offseason back surgery proved to be a brief relief to Bird's back pain. But a fall during practice in December re-aggravated his original injury. From that point on, Larry Bird played the rest of the year in severe pain. While continuing to show flashes of brilliance on certain nights, Larry's ability to play on a consistently high level every game was much more difficult. Nevertheless, many shining moments stood out during Larry Bird's 13th and final NBA season.
Here's Bird. Wrestler all over him. He fires. It's a three-pointer, and he's tied the game. The Trailblazers arguing that it should have been a two-pointer.
Larry's final game at Boston Garden turned out to be a fitting way to leave his legacy.
Up to Bird. Bounces off Elo to Parrish for two. Bird at his best.
After some media members and fans openly questioned the usefulness of Larry Bird during the playoffs against the Cavaliers, Larry proved that he could still dominate a game in more ways than one.
Bags in the middle. Up to Bird. Wants it. Got it. Bird looking inside at the Chief. Rob it to the hole.
With Larry Bird's retirement, the Celtics front court of the Big Three has finally been broken up. Formed 12 years ago through the trading genius of Red Auerbach, arguably the greatest front court of all time has played its last game together.
I think if Larry had played all the games the last 2 years and then retired, I think it's safe to say that this organization, coaches, players, probably everybody, would be an absolute culture shock right now. You know, say, wow, what do we, this is just going to be. But I think the fact that we had to go to the war so many times without Larry, and that we had success, particularly at the end of last year where we had a great run going, I don't think that I sense any panic at all with our coaching staff or with our players. Far from it. I think there's a healthy degree of confidence there. And I think having had to learn how to play without Birdie for as many times as we did last year and the year before, I think bodes well for us being able to deal with it in the future.
The Boston Celtics franchise has been around for over 40 years, and virtually every decade has seen a superstar decide to hang up his green and white jersey. Larry Bird is another in the long line of great Celtic heroes, but the franchise must continue to grow and be successful in the future.
Everybody's going to have to pick it up somewhat that Larry's gone. I don't think that any one guy's going to step in and do it all, or one guy's going to step in. You got to remember when Larry was here, no one guy did it all then either. I mean, Larry, as good as he was, played with some great players. And so it's a team effort.
Both Senior Executive Vice President Dave Gavitt and head coach Chris Ford know that teamwork is the key ingredient to a successful season. They also know that it is their job to put the pieces together to create a winning team.
I think we saw some workings last year at the end of the season where we came out, I think we won like 18 out of 20 and overtook the New York Knicks for the division title. It was only a short segment of the season, but I think they had an inkling of what life without Larry is going to be. And that is, a lot of guys are going to have to step up their game, elevate to a new level. Reggie Lewis has proven that he is a go-to player. And I expect big things out of Kevin and Robert. I think that they want to prove that they were an integral part of the 80s as well. And I look for them to have a great year.
The brightest star to emerge during the 91-92 season was Reggie Lewis. As he had done during his previous 4 years, Reggie Lewis continued to improve in every facet of the game. He was the only Celtic to start every game last season and became only the second Boston player to lead the team in scoring, steals, and blocked shots in the same year. The only other time this feat was accomplished was back in 1978 when Dave Cowens did it. The highlight of his season, though, was in late January when he was selected to the 1992 All-Star Game. His 7 points and 4 rebounds in 15 minutes of play showed the Celtics had a star beyond the Big Three.
Lewis.
I think we have a very good ball club, and I think it's just a matter of us playing together as a team and everybody contributing and everybody picking their game up another notch. I think we just have to just use our talent, use our quickness to our advantage.
As the season progressed and Larry Bird's absence from the lineup became extended, the team looked to Reggie as their new go-to guy.
And Lewis. What a play by Reggie. Power move by the Reg.
His career-high 38 points against Cleveland, including 8 straight baskets in the fourth quarter, led him to being named the NBA's Player of the Week in April. Combined with his team-leading 20.8 points per game, Reggie Lewis also improved his defensive awareness on the court and surprised many people with a newfound passing ability.
Reggie Lewis, the dish to Sherman, goes the other way for 2.
I think I'll have to be more of a leader out there on the floor. I'll have to just try to read the defense more. I'll expect to be getting double-teamed a whole lot more, so I have to make sure that I'm looking to pass the ball a whole lot more.
A man who has seen quite a few talented players in his time is the Chief, Robert Parrish. Now entering his 17th season, the oldest player in the NBA shows little sign of slowing down.
Parrish in a mismatch underneath. Turns long for two.
While the 1991-92 season was a year of milestones for Robert, the Chief hopes to play even better this year. The well-conditioned 39-year-old missed only 3 games last year and has never missed more than 8 games in his 12-year Celtic career. While averaging over 14 points per game for the 14th consecutive season, Robert also shot 50% from the field for the 13th straight year.
I really haven't had a stamina problem. I think the coaching do a very good job of monitoring my minutes, and I have never been overplayed since I've been here, and I don't see fatigue being a problem.
Halfway through the 1991-92 campaign, it seemed as if Kevin McHale's career was over, and he would be the first of the big 3 to retire. Off-season ankle surgery and a subsequent calf bruise that led to a torn muscle put Kevin on the shelf for 24 of the team's first 46 games. When he returned in February, he shot an embarrassing 3 of 18 from the field in his first 3 games.
And Kevin's talking to himself.
However, when March arrived, the real Kevin McHale returned to the court as he averaged 15.7 points and 6.4 rebounds the rest of the way. The most impressive part of his game was his field goal shooting, which hovered around 55%.
I'm looking forward to our team gelling and playing the same type of defense that we played last year. I think if anything that we've got to do better, we've got to become a much better defensive team, and that's where I felt myself, I've been the most disappointed in myself with my defense these last few years. I just haven't had any liveliness in the foot to go out and guard some people. And I think if we get our defense down and everything evolves around that, we should be okay, because we may have some offensive slumps, we may have that, but if you play good, solid defense, you're in every game.
With the departure of Larry Bird from the lineup, the team was in search of a big man to fill some of Larry's duties. Unfortunately for Boston, there were no true big men available to fit this bill. However, that did not mean that the Celtics would sit still and not improve themselves.
We're pleased to announce this morning that we have signed forward Xavier McDaniel, who's an unrestricted free agent, to a 3-year contract to play for the Boston Celtics.
Xavier McDaniel, a 7-year veteran from Wichita State, was brought into Boston not to be Larry Bird's replacement, but rather to be himself. A rough-and-tumble battler who won't back down from anyone.
McDaniel and Fox are battling. Offensive foul, Xavier McDaniel.
McDaniel brings with him an element that the Celtics truly haven't had since the days of M.L. Carr. A forward that plays with the intensity and arrogance associated with Celtic pride. While only 6'7" and 215 pounds, the X-Man isn't afraid to guard power forwards or centers and truly enjoys a challenge.
Blocked by McDaniel. Here comes Jackson. They give it back to the edge.
I know they'd be looking for the power game out of me. I think I'm capable of posting up just about any small forward in this league. I'm not very big, but that's just the way my game is. Posting up and, driving the basketball to the hole, rebound and playing tough defense.
While the signing of Xavier McDaniel appears to signal a change in the starting lineup, nothing is definite. Kevin Gamble, a starter at the 3 spot the past 2 seasons, could very well continue to play there, or perhaps shift back to his original NBA position of big guard. Either way, Gamble is a valuable commodity to have on the team, especially when you consider he averaged 17 points a game in the 28-game stretch of Larry Bird's absence.
And now Gamble for Bagley, looking to tie it. Here's Gamble. Off the buzzer, and we go to a...
It looks like I got to go out and prove myself every year. What is Gamble going to do? How is he going to fit in? I'm just going to go with the flow. Let Coach Ford set the lineup, and just go from there.
At no time in their history have the Celtics had as muddled a point guard situation as they did last season. Through injuries and trades, the Green actually had 7 point guards on their roster throughout the year. The oddest part of the season was in April, as Reggie Lewis took over the duties during the 4th quarter of a game against Cleveland. However, this season, things seem to be a bit more lucid, although not 100% clear. Dee Brown is designated as the starting point guard at this time. The 1991-92 season proved to be a true sophomore jinx for the 6'1" former NBA slam dunk champ. Dee played in only 31 games as he was initially sidelined with a torn lateral meniscus in his left knee. He returned just before the All-Star break and struggled with all the responsibilities of the team's point guard position. After a deep thigh bruise kept him out of a couple of more games, Dee became ill with an influenza that left him weak, dizzy, and disoriented. Hopefully, all the bad luck Dee Brown suffered during the 1991-92 season will not return this year.
Right now, I'm back to square one where I was last year, where I'm starting when everybody else starts. You know, these last 2 years, I got a chance to watch a lot of point guards. I got to watch Bagley a lot, watch Sherman, watch other point guards in the league, and kind of pick up things that's going to help me down the road to be a point guard on this team.
Dee's competition at the point is 3-year veteran Sherman Douglas. Acquired in a trade with the Miami Heat last January in exchange for Brian Shaw, Sherman spent his time in Boston struggling to find his niche with the team. Sherman the push, Milwaukee back, alley-oop Rick Fox. There is no doubt that Sherman Douglas can play point guard in the NBA. The big question is whether or not he is suited for the up-tempo style of Chris Ford's Boston Celtics. While with Miami, Sherman was the general of their offense, controlling the ball at all times. Here in Boston, the concept of running and passing is different. The ideal Celtics game plan includes fast break basketball with very little dribbling involved.
I'm excited about this year and glad to be in training camp for a while. Last couple of years I've pretty much missed training camp, and I'm glad to be here, and I'm looking forward to it.
Currently, the Celtics starting point guard for 59 games last season and the star of their first-round playoff series, John Bagley, is unsigned. A free agent able to make his own deal with any of the 27 NBA clubs, Baggs has yet to agree to a new contract. The possibility of John Bagley not being in a Celtic uniform for the 92-93 season is quite good. A very pleasant surprise for the Celtics last season was the play of rookie Rick Fox. His hard work, willingness to learn, and tenacious style of play showed good signs to both teammates and opponents throughout the league.
Fox a little lax here in the early going. Fox, nice spin.
I remember a smooth transition from college into the pros. I had a lot of help with a great, organization, coaches, and also a lot of legends to play with. I remember being, in awe of everything at first, but as the season went along and I was thrown into the situations where I had to play, I was glad to get the opportunity and was excited to show that I could compete at this level.
One player who keeps improving from year to year is 6'9" forward Ed Pinckney. Finally showing some of the great talent that led him to be drafted 10th in the league in 1985, Easy Ed blossomed into an offensive rebounding force in the NBA last year.
Reggie Lewis, baseline jump, long with it. Eddie Pinckney for two. Eddie is scrapping, and Joe Klein.
As the season wore on, I felt a lot more confident, and I'm coming off a much better season, and I'll be able to start off feeling very confident about using my moves down there. So I'm pretty excited about it.
A longtime teammate of Ed Pinckney's and now a great player to have on your bench is Joe Klein. After a dismal 1990-91 season, Joe rebounded last year with a solid effort that showed great ability and enthusiasm.
Klein and Ewing battle. Ewing, no, rebound, Klein!
As the season went on, Joe's confidence grew, and his fine shooting ability began to surface.
To an open Joe Klein, big shot.
I think a real key to our team this year is going to be the ability of us to get the ball off the board and get it out to people and get it up the floor.
For the first time in quite a while, the Celtics actually had two selections in the NBA draft. Their first selection was the 21st pick overall, 6'5" guard John Barry from Georgia Tech, the son of NBA Hall of Famer Rick Barry. John averaged 17.5 points per game as a senior at Georgia Tech, but he is best known for his solid passing ability. Unfortunately for both sides, contract difficulties between the Celtics and John Barry have so far prevented him from getting an early start on his inaugural season in the NBA. So taking a look at the Boston Celtics, how about a quick look around the league? Of course, the team that everybody talks about, the Celtics, will face in the Atlantic Division, much improved, the New York Knicks.
Well, there's no question the Knicks have gotten younger and also have gotten some experience in over the course of the summer. Charles Smith, who's an exceptional inside player and can move out to the range of 18 feet, is going to provide them with a guy that can play the 4 spot, unlike Charles Oakley, who's just really a one-dimensional player. Blackman, the guard, the great guard from the Dallas Mavericks, is going to really help them offensively because he is a consistent 20-point-a-game scorer if he's healthy. They got Doc Rivers for a little experience in the backcourt. And Tony Campbell, after they lost Xavier McDaniel, Tony Campbell's an offensive machine. I don't think they'll be as good rebounding, but I look to see the New York Knicks have some physical problems. They've about reached that stage in their team's history with this nucleus that they're going to pick up some injuries here and there that might not help them.
And real close to the New York Knicks, of course, the New Jersey Nets. Old pal of yours, Chuck Daly, he's got the talent down there, it would appear.
They're going to change over to a new style of basketball, I think. And there's going to be a point guard battle going on there. The ownership wanted this kid from Georgia Tech, Kenny Anderson, to really get the job done. Bill Fitch didn't see fit to play him, and that's really one of the reasons why I think that Fitch is no longer coaching that ball club. Anderson has got tremendous potential. Mookie Blaylock is a fine basketball player, but Anderson's got the true potential, in my opinion, to be a star.
Okay, looks like it's going to be an interesting season. You looking forward to it?
Why not?
All right. We're ready again to go with the Celtics here on Sports Channel. Join us opening night, November 6th, when the new Celtics will get it all together. Until then, for Tom Heinz and I'm Mike Gorman, see you at the Garden.